There was once a boy named Arjun, born into a life of struggle. His family lived in a small one-room house in the heart of a crowded city. His father was a daily wage laborer, his mother a seamstress. They barely made enough to put food on the table. But Arjun had something far more valuable than money, an unbreakable spirit. Arjun loved studying. He dreamed of becoming an engineer, of building a future where his family would never have to struggle again. But life wasn't kind to dreamers. His school books were secondhand, pages torn and scribbled over. At night, he studied under the dim streetlights when the electricity at home was cut off due to unpaid bills. His classmates ridiculed him for wearing the same worn-out uniform every day. He never let it break him. One evening as he walked home from school, he saw his father sitting outside their house, his face buried in his hands. That day, his father had lost his job. Their only source of income was gone. Arjun clenched his fists. He knew what he had to do. He would work, study, and fight for a better future. Arjun took up a job at a tea stall. Waking up at 4 a.m., he cleaned tables, washed cups, and served tea before rushing to school. After school, he worked at a mechanic's garage, learning to fix broken engines while his own body ached from exhaustion. Sleep became a luxury he could no longer afford. His friends went out to play. He stayed back to study. His hands smelled of oil and sweat. His body was tired beyond measure, but his mind was sharper than ever. He failed tests, but he didn't give up. He studied harder. He saved every rupee he earned, buying books instead of treats. Every time he felt like quitting, he reminded himself why he started. The years went by, and Arjun sat for the toughest engineering entrance exam in the country. When the results were announced, his heart pounded. He scrolled through the list of names, his breath catching in his throat. He wasn't there. He had failed. The weight of the world crushed him. All those sleepless nights, all the sacrifices, all the pain, it felt like it had been for nothing. He walked back home in silence, avoiding his mother's eyes. That night, he sat alone on the rooftop, staring at the endless sky. Tears streamed down his face. Was hard work really worth it? Was destiny against him? But then, a memory surfaced. His father's tired eyes, his mother's trembling hands, stitching clothes late into the night. He couldn't give up. He wouldn't. He studied again, harder this time. He analyzed every mistake he had made. He worked twice as many hours, saved twice as much. The next year, he took the exam again. This time, when the results came, his name was there. Not just there. He had secured one of the top ranks. Tears welled up in his eyes as he ran home, his heart bursting with joy. His mother cried as she hugged him. His father, who had never shown emotions, placed a hand on his shoulder and whispered, "I knew you would do it." Arjun went on to study in one of the most prestigious engineering colleges. The struggles didn't end there. He worked part-time to support his family while keeping up with his demanding studies. But he never stopped. He graduated with honors, got a job at a top company, and years later, built the house his parents had once only dreamed of. Years later, when Arjun was asked what his secret to success was, he simply smiled and said, "Hard work never fails. Life will test you, break you, make you question everything. But if you refuse to give up, if you keep pushing forward, success will find you. Not today, not tomorrow, but someday. And when it does, you'll realize every struggle was worth it." Arjun's story is not just his own. It's the story of every person who dares to dream, who refuses to surrender, who fights against all odds. So if you're struggling, if life seems unfair, if the world tells you that you can't, remember this: hard work always wins.